Now let's move on to the next one, the plant cells. We're going to look at the plant cells. Before we talk about the plant cells, I want us to take a look at the organelle cell and cut it and do a little experiment. All of us can do this experiment at home. Take an organelle cell and cut it. Take a knife, cut a piece of it, and take this piece, cut it again. Let's take a look at what is happening. We cut a piece again and cut another piece. We're going to bring out the smallest piece and put it and add our iodine substance to it. We're going to bring out smallest piece of it, a small piece of it. Yeah, we're going to take a very small piece out of this and we put it in our. We're going to use a tweezer to peel it off and put it in a clean microscopic slide, and then we add iodine solution to it, or a methane blue. We add iodine solution in methane blue to this, and then we're going to use a cover slip to cover this and put it in a microscope. We're going to place this under a microscope and view this and see how it looks, how the animal cell look like, a good example of animal cell. So this is how it looks like. This is a good example of the animal cell. So you can do this at home if you have a microscope and all the substances I've mentioned, like the iodine and the microscope and squeezers and all the likes that we mentioned. Now let's take a look at the animal cell. Let's explore the animal cells, the functions of each of the part of the animal cell. Now we'll take a look at the cell wall. We said the cell wall is the rigid external coat, this rigid one that looks like a basin. It's the rigid green, this green color looking external coat, which protect and support the plant cell. That's the function of the cell wall. What of the cell membrane? The cell membrane is this thin inner layer that controls what goes in and out of the cell. So that is a partially permeable membrane that regulates substances that goes in and out of the cell. What of the cytoplasm? These are the cytoplasms. Is inner dot that you can see. Then the cytoplasms, then like the jelly-like substance or materials which all cells organelles are found, and where the metabolic reactions or chemical reactions in the body of the cell takes place. Now what about the vacuum? This is the vacuum. The vacuum is a fluid-filled cavity that stores water and nutrients for the cell. Now what of the nucleus? The nucleus is the locations of the cell's DNA. This is a good example of the nucleus. Is the location, is where the cell's DNA is found. Okay, what about the mitochondria? The mitochondria, like this one, this one, this one. The mitochondria, the site for the energy released by respiration. Now, what about the ribosome? The ribosome, look at the structure, how they look, the ribosome. The ribosomes are the site for protein synthesis, meaning this is where proteins are being produced in the body. Okay, what about the cytoplasm? The cytoplasms are the site for photosynthesis. This is where the plants manufacture their own food because they contain the chlorophyll, which is a green pigment that helps to trap the sunlight energy. Now let's take a look. Let's move on. How are the plant cells adapted to their environment? Now in the plant cells, we're going to look at some substances that make up the plant cells or the specialized cells of the plant cells. For example, in plant cells, we have the root hair cells, we have the xylem cells, we have the sieve cells, we have the palisade cells, we have the epidermal cells. Now let's take a look at the first one, which is the root hair cells. Now the root hair cells grows on the surface of the root and absorbs the water and mineral from the ground, from the soil, to the body of the plants. Now that's their job. They specifically grow downwards in the soil and they help to absorb water and mineral from the soil to the body of the plant. Now what of the xylem cells? What do? After the water and mineral has been absorbed from the soil, the xylem cells helps to transport this water and minerals to the body of the cells, to all part of the plants. That's the function of the xylem cells. That's what they do. They help to transport the water and the mineral that has been, the water specifically, that has been taken from the soil to every part of the plants, such as the leaf, the branches, and the stems, all part of the plants. That's what they do. What of the sieve cells? The sieve cells are the main types of cells in the sieve tube. They transport carbohydrate around the plants. Every part of the plant, they move carbohydrate around the plants. That's what the specific function, what they do. What of the palisade cells? The palisade cells are the main site of photosynthesis. This is where photosynthesis do take place. They lie in a closely packed roots underneath the upper part of the epidermis of the leaves. Okay, now what of the epidermal cells? The epidermal cells form the top layer of the cells in the leaf. They're very thin and they let the sunlight pass through to the photosynthesizing palisade cells, and they have no chloroplast to absorb the light, the sunlight energy. Okay, that's that for that. Let's move ahead and take a look at their function, specific function, how they look and their functions. What does this do? What does this do? And what does this do? This is different cells that we've mentioned, all right? Now, what's the function of this? Transport carbohydrate around the plants, site for photosynthesis, increase the surface area of the root, and form the top layer of the cell's leaves, or transport water up the plant. Yes, they increase the surface area of the roots. This is the root hair cells. Now, let's take a look at the second one. What's the function of this one, this other one? They transport carbohydrate around the body. No. What do? They form the top cell of cells, transport water up the plant. Yes, they transport water because they are xylem cells. Now let's take a look at this. What do? They transport carbohydrate around the body. That's great. What of this? What do? What do this one do? They deceive cells. What do? Site for photosynthesis. Form the top layer of the site transport what? No. Increase. Yes. They are the site for photosynthesis in the plant because this is a palisade cell. Now, what of this last one? What do? This symbol. What do they do in the body? They form the top. They form the top layer of the cells in the leaf. That's great. Now we move on to these are the specific or specialized cells in plants and their functions. These are the specialized cells in plants and their functions. Let's move ahead and see what else we go to look at. Now, what is a cell wall? All plants have a cell wall. We say they're the rigid outer layer of the plants that give rigidity, support, protections to the plant. Right? Now, the plant cells is made up of cellulose, a carbohydrate polymer. A cellulose is a carbohydrate polymer, meaning many monomers of CPO sugar put together to form a polymer. And what are the functions? The purpose of the cell wall is to maintain to maintain the shape and the structure of the cell. That's the first function of the cell wall. This example of a cell wall. First function is to maintain the shape and the structure of the cell wall. The second function of the cell wall is to protect the cell contents from pathogen. To protect it from pathogen, disease-causing organism. Pathogen means disease-causing organism. Then another function they carry out is to protect the prevent damage to the cell caused by an excess water intake. So these are the main functions of the cell wall. Now let's take a look at the vacuum, cell vacuum. The vacuum. The vacuum is we said is a fluid-filled sac which contains water and nutrients of the plants. Now the vacuum has a range of functions. One is storing waste products. The vacuum helps the cell or the organisms to store waste products. Another one is maintaining the water and the pH balance of the soil. They help to maintain water and the pH balance of the soil. And another functions of the cell vacuum is to maintain the shape of the cell. And this the functions. Now let's take a look at the chloroplast. The chloroplast, we said they are the site for photosynthesis. Those are how they look like, and they contain the green pigments, which is called the chlorophyll, and it helps to absorb the sunlight energy for photosynthesis to take place. This energy is used to convert the carbon dioxide and the water into glucose and oxygen. Okay, so that's photosynthesis. Now let's take a look at this activity and see the functions of each of these that we've mentioned, both plants and animals. Now, first of all, we go to we say the rigidity, the rigid external coat. Which of this one carries out that? The cell wall, which is this. And then we go to the next question. The location of the cell's chromosomes. Which of these contains the cell's chromosomes? The what? Is it the nucleus? Yes, great. The nucleus contains the cell's chromosome. Remember, the chromosome contains the DNA. Okay. Now we go to the next question. The site for protein synthesis. Which of them synthesize the protein? The ribosome, right? Good, great. So the ribosome synthesize the protein. Then we go to the next one. Partial permeable membrane. Which one there? The cell membrane, right? Cell membrane. Good, great. We go to the next one. the site of photosynthesis in plant cell. Photosynthesis is in chloroplast, right? So, good, great. We go to the next question. The gel-like substance, cytoplasm. Yes, great. We go to the next one. The site of energy released by respiration. The site where is energy being released by respiration. Which of them? Ribosome, no. Mitochondria, great, good. Now let's go to the next one. The fluid-filled cavity found in plant cells that stores water and nutrient. Vacuum, right? Like we've explained before. That's great, that's good. So these are the specific functions. Now we make a cell model. How do we analyze a cell in our daily activities? For example, we take a plastic bag and we take a clear gelatin, a small object suspended in the cellular space. Okay, and then can we make a model of the cell from this? So we can do this at home as an activity and make a model of the cell. Now let's take a look at what we have. The last part of our work is to look at the functions of the various terminology that we've mentioned, like the cell, what it means. We say is the building block of life. The cell is the building block of life, is the basic things that determines every other things in plants or animal, in every organism. The cell wall, we say, is a partially permeable barrier that regulates what goes in and out of the cell. Then the cell membrane. Then the cell wall is the rigid external coat that protects and supports the cell, the plant cell, not animal cell, because animal cells do not have a cell wall. Now, what of the chlorophyll? The chlorophyll is contains the green pigment that is found in the chloroplast, which helps to trap the sunlight energy for photosynthesis to take place. What of chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis to take place. What of cytoplasm is a jelly-like material that contains where the organelles are found and where all metabolic reactions do take place. Now let's take a look at more other terminology. We make mention of the mitochondria. We say is the site for energy release by the cell. What of the nucleus? We say is the location of the cell's DNA. Now let's take a look at more. Photosynthesis, we say, is a chemical reaction in which the trapped sunlight energy is used or is helps to convert the carbon dioxide and water into glucose and oxygen. What of ribosome is the site for protein synthesis. Ribosome helps to synthesize the protein in the cell. Now, what about the vacuole? The vacuole is the fluid-filled cavity that contains the plant cells' water and nutrient. It helps to store the water and the nutrients of the plant. Okay, so this is what we have for today's video, and thank you for joining to this section. Thank you. You're welcome.